wiped the sweat from his forehead as his small cargo ship landed on the dusty surface of Seven. The old mining colony had been abandoned for 3 years now, but it still had useful parts he could salvage. His job was simple: deliver supplies to remote outposts and pick up whatever spare parts he could find along the way. It was lonely work, but preferred it that way. The airlock hissed open and stepped out onto the red dirt. The mining station stood before him like a skeleton of metal and glass. Wind howled through the broken windows. He pulled his jacket and walked toward the main building. His boots crunched on the ground with each step. Inside, the station was dark and cold. Turned on his flashlight and began searching through the old storage rooms. He found some power cables that looked good enough to sell, a few computer chips, some sealed containers of machine oil. Nothing special, but it would pay for his fuel. He was walking toward the cargo bay when he heard it. A soft sound like a whimper, stopped and listened. There it was again. Something was alive in here. His first thought was that a small animal had gotten trapped inside. But this far out in space, there were no animals. At least, there should not be any. Moved slowly toward the sound, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. In the corner of the cargo bay, behind a stack of old crates, something moved. His heart beat faster. He stepped closer and pointed his light at the movement. What he saw made him freeze. It was a child, but not a human child. The small creature was unlike anything had ever seen. She was about the size of a 6-year-old human, but her skin was pale blue and covered with strange patterns that glowed very faintly. Her eyes were huge and dark, like pools of black water. She had thin arms and legs, and her body looked terribly thin. The alien child stared at him with fear in those enormous eyes. She pressed herself back against the wall, trying to make herself smaller. Her glowing patterns flickered weakly, like a dying light. Knew he should report this. There were rules about contact with unknown alien species. The authorities would want to know. Scientists would want to study her. Military officers would want to ask questions. But all could see was a starving child. He had seen that look before, many years ago during the food shortage on his home colony. Children with hollow cheeks and scared eyes. The memory made his chest hurt. Slowly lowered himself to the ground. He sat cross-legged a few feet away from the child and turned off his flashlight. In the dim light from her patterns, he could see her more clearly now. Her ribs showed through her thin chest. Her arms looked like sticks. "Hey," said softly in Korean. "It's okay, I won't hurt you." The child did not respond. She probably could not understand his words, but maybe she could understand his tone. Kept his voice gentle and calm, the way his grandmother used to speak to frightened animals. He reached into his pack and pulled out his emergency rations. There was not much: some dried vegetables, a packet of rice, some seasoning. Always carried the ingredients for soup because his grandmother had taught him that soup was the best thing to give someone who was very hungry. Easy to digest, warm and comforting. The alien child watched as pulled out his small portable heater and a metal pot. He poured water from his canteen into the pot and set it to boil. The child's eyes followed every movement. While the water heated, added the vegetables and rice. He sprinkled in some salt and a bit of dried seaweed. The smell filled the cargo bay. It was simple food, nothing fancy, but the aroma was warm and inviting. The child's nose twitched, or at least the small openings on her face that might be a nose twitched. She was sniffing the air. When the soup was ready, poured some into a bowl. He let it cool for a moment, then took a sip to show it was safe. The child watched him drink. Her patterns glowed a little brighter, and wondered if that meant she was interested. He set the bowl on the ground and pushed it toward her gently. Then he moved back to give her space. The alien child stared at the bowl, then back at the bowl. Her small body trembled. Could see the struggle on her face, hunger fighting against fear. Hunger won. The child crawled forward slowly, ready to run at any moment. Her thin fingers reached for the bowl. She pulled it close and sniffed the soup. Her patterns brightened more. Then, carefully, she brought the bowl to her mouth and took a small sip. Her eyes went wide. She took another sip, then another. Soon she was drinking the soup in quick gulps like someone who had not eaten in days, maybe weeks. Smiled. He poured more soup into the bowl when she finished. The child drank that too. By the third bowl she was drinking more slowly, and her patterns were glowing much brighter than before. The blue light filled the cargo bay with a soft, peaceful glow. When the child finished eating, she set down the bowl and really looked at him. The fear in her eyes had faded. Now there was something else. Gratitude, maybe, or trust. Wished he could do more. He wished he could take her somewhere safe. But where? He did not know where she came from or how she got here. He did not even know if human food would truly help her or if it would make her sick later. All he could do was leave her with supplies and hope for the best. Gathered his remaining rations and put them in a sealed container. He filled another container with water from his ship's reserves. He set both containers near the child, and she watched him with those huge dark eyes. "I have to go," said, even though she could not understand. "But this food is for you, the water too. Stay safe, okay?" He stood up and backed toward the exit. The child did not move. She just watched him, her patterns glowing softly in the dark. Marked the location on his personal but did not send a report to the authorities. He did not know what they would do with an alien child, and he did not want to find out. Maybe he would come back in a few days with more supplies. Maybe by then he would figure out what to do. As his ship lifted off from 7, looked back at the mining station. He felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had done something, but it did not feel like enough. That small alien child was all alone in an abandoned building on a dead world. He tried to push the thought from his mind as he set course for his next delivery. But as the stars streaked past his window, all he could see were those huge dark eyes watching him leave. 3 days had passed since left the alien child on 7. He had made 2 deliveries in that time, but his mind kept going back to that cargo bay. Those huge eyes. That weak, flickering glow from her patterns. He wondered if she was still alive, if the food had helped or hurt her, if she was scared. He was running a cargo check on his ship when the emergency broadcast cut through his radio. "Attention all vessels in the outer rim sectors. Unknown ship detected entering our space. Size classification, massive. Repeat, massive unknown vessel detected. All civilian ships maintain safe distance. Military vessels respond to coordinates." Frowned and pulled up his navigation screen. The coordinates were not far from his current position. More concerning, they were close to the abandoned mining colonies, close to 7. He switched his radio to the military channel. Technically, civilians were not supposed to listen to military communications, but had learned long ago that knowing what the military was doing could save your life. Commander's voice came through, sharp and professional. "All ships, this is Commander of the Soul's Pride. We are moving to intercept the unknown vessel. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. Let's find out what we are dealing with." Felt his stomach tighten. He had a bad feeling about this. Over the next hour, he listened to the military reports. The unknown ship was huge, bigger than any human battlecruiser. It did not respond to any attempts at communication. It was not broadcasting any signals. Worst of all, it was moving with clear purpose. It was not drifting. It was not exploring. It was going somewhere specific. "Commander, we have scanned the vessel," a voice reported. "The readings are strange. The ship appears to be organic, like it is alive." "Alive?" His voice was skeptical. "Explain." "The hull is not metal, ma'am. It is some kind of biological material, and there are patterns on it. They look like the same kind of bioluminescent patterns we have seen on some deep space creatures." His blood ran cold. Bioluminescent patterns, just like the child. "Track its course," ordered. "I want to know where it is going." There was a pause. Then the navigator's voice came back, uncertain. "Ma'am, the vessel is heading directly for the abandoned mining colonies. Specifically, it appears to be targeting 7. 7, the same place had found the child." Everything clicked into place in his mind. The child had not been abandoned, she had been lost, and now someone was coming to find her, someone big, someone powerful. Someone who thought humans might have hurt her child. Grabbed his radio and switched to the military frequency. "This is civilian vessel Star Runner calling the Soul's Pride. Commander, please respond. This is urgent." There was silence for a moment. Then's irritated voice came through. "Star Runner, this is a restricted military channel. Clear this frequency immediately." "Commander, please listen," said quickly. "I know why that ship is coming. I know what it wants." "Star Runner, I will not repeat myself. Clear this channel or face penalties." "There is a child on 7, shouted. "An alien child. I found her 3 days ago. She was starving. I gave her food and left her there. That ship is coming for her. It must be her mother." "You did what?" His voice was ice. "You made contact with an unknown species and did not report it. That is a violation of at least 6 different regulations." I know, said. "You can arrest me later, but right now you need to understand, that ship thinks we hurt her child. If you attack, she will fight back." "How do you know it is a she?" another voice asked. It was softer than's. "How do you know it is the child's mother?" "I don't know for sure," admitted. "But the child had these glowing patterns on her skin. The reports say this ship has the same patterns. What else could it be?" There was a long silence. Could imagine the discussion happening on the Soul's Pride. Finally spoke again. "Star Runner, maintain your current position. Do not, under any circumstances, approach the intercept zone. We will handle this." The radio went quiet. Stared at his navigation screen. The Soul's Pride and its fleet were moving into position. The unknown ship was still approaching, and between them was 7, where a small alien child waited with a few containers of food and water. He thought about what would happen when the two forces met. The military was trained to see threats. They would be nervous, fingers on triggers. And the alien ship, if it truly was a mother looking for her child, would be desperate and probably angry. It was a recipe for disaster. Looked at his control panel. He looked at the navigation screen showing the course to 7. He thought about his grandmother, who always said that doing the right thing was rarely the easy thing. "I am sorry, Commander," he muttered to himself. Then he plotted a new course and pushed his engines to maximum speed. The intercept zone was chaos when arrived. The Soul's Pride and 6 other military ships had formed a defensive line. Facing them was the alien vessel, and seeing it up close took his breath away. It was not just big, it was enormous. The creature looked like a cross between a whale and a manta ray, but covered in armor-like scales that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. The patterns were dim now, a deep red color that seemed to pulse with anger. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander of the Human Defense Fleet," his voice broadcast across all channels. "You are entering human-controlled space. Identify yourself and state your intentions." The alien creature did not respond. It just kept moving forward, slow but unstoppable. "All ships power weapons," ordered, "targeting computers online, but do not fire unless I give the order." Watched his sensor screen. He could see the military ships charging their weapons. He could see the alien creature's pattern starting to glow brighter, shifting from red to orange. Then someone panicked. A young officer stationed on one of the smaller ships, fired a warning shot. The beam of energy streaked across space and hit the creature's side. What happened next was terrifying. The creature's patterns flashed bright crimson. It moved with shocking speed for something so large. A focused beam of energy shot from somewhere on its body and struck ship. The small frigate simply disintegrated, turned to dust and debris in an instant. "All ships evasive maneuvers," screamed. Return fire, return fire. The fleet scattered. Energy beams and missiles launched toward the creature. Most bounced off its armored hide. The few that seemed to damage it only made it angrier. The creature's patterns burned like fire as it destroyed another ship, then crippled a third. Knew he had seconds to act. If this continued, more people would die, and the creature would eventually make it to 7, where it might destroy the whole colony looking for its child. He did the craziest thing he had ever done in his life. He flew his small cargo ship directly between the military fleet and the alien creature. "What are you doing?" His voice exploded over the radio. "Get out of there." Ignored her. He opened a broadcast on all frequencies and began transmitting. He sent the coordinates of 7. He sent the exact location where he had found the child. And most importantly, he sent the images he had taken on his, pictures of himself giving soup to the small alien child. "Please," he broadcast, not knowing if the creature could understand. "Please stop. Your child is safe. I helped her. I gave her food. She is on 7 in the cargo bay of the old mining station. Please just stop fighting and I will take you to her." The creature paused. Its patterns shifted from crimson to orange, then to amber. It was still moving, but slower now. Kept broadcasting the images. The child drinking soup. The child's patterns glowing brighter. The child looking at the camera with those huge dark eyes. The creature stopped completely. The alien creature floated in space like a mountain that had learned to fly. Its patterns had stopped flashing angry red, but they had not turned peaceful either. They pulsed with amber and orange colors that could not read. Was it thinking? Was it deciding whether to believe him? "Star Runner, what have you done?" Commander's voice was tight with controlled fury. "You have interfered with a military operation. You will be arrested the moment this is over." "I understand, Commander," replied, his hands shaking on the controls. "But we need to stop fighting. This creature is not invading. It is looking for its child." "You don't know that for certain," shot back. "And now you have put yourself in the line of fire. If that thing attacks again, you will be the first to die." Swallowed hard. She was right. He was in a tiny cargo ship with no weapons and no shields worth mentioning. If the creature decided to attack, he would not even have time to scream. But the creature was not attacking. It was watching, waiting. On the Soul's Pride, Lieutenant was bent over her console, her fingers flying across the screen. She was the fleet's, an expert in alien communication. For 3 years, her job had been mostly theoretical since humans had not made contact with any truly advanced alien species. Until now. "Commander," said, her voice excited despite the tension, "I think I understand something. These bioluminescent patterns, they are not random. They are structured, complex. I think they are a form of language." "Move to stand behind station. Can you translate?" "Not yet," admitted, "but I can try to read basic meaning. Colors seem to correspond to emotional states or intent. Red was clearly aggression or anger. The amber it is showing now might be uncertainty or evaluation." "What about when we first detected it?" asked. "Before the fighting started, what color was it?" Pulled up the early scan data. It was pulsing between deep blue and violet. If I had to guess based on the patterns I am seeing, I would say those colors represent urgency and distress. Stared at the image of the massive creature on the. A mother looking for her lost child would feel urgent and distressed. "Exactly," said. Turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to that civilian ship, the Star Runner." A moment later, his face appeared on the screen. He looked terrified but determined. "Tell me everything," said. "Leave nothing out. When did you find the child? What condition was she in? What did you do?" Explained it all. The abandoned mining station, the small alien hiding in the cargo bay, her emaciated body and weak patterns, the soup he had made, the supplies he had left behind. "Why did you not report this?" demanded. Hesitated. I was afraid of what would happen to her. She was just a child, a scared, starving child. I thought if I reported it, she would be taken away, studied, kept in a lab somewhere. I just wanted her to have a chance. His expression softened slightly. That was reckless and against protocol, but I understand. She turned to, "Can we communicate with this creature? Tell it we mean its child no harm." Was already working. "I can try, give me a moment." She programmed a sequence of colored lights to broadcast from the soul's pride's external displays. Blue and green patterns, chosen because they seemed calmer in the spectrum of colors the creature used. She added a simple pictographic message, an image of the child, an arrow pointing towards 7, and symbols representing safety and care. The message broadcast in repeating loops. The creature's patterns shifted. Amber faded to yellow, then to a mix of blue and green. Its massive body turned slowly and realized with a chill that it was looking directly at him. Then it did something unexpected. It began broadcasting its own patterns, and somehow ship computer picked them up as a signal. Images flooded his screen. He saw a vast nebula of swirling colors. He saw the creature and a smaller version of itself, clearly the child, swimming through space together. He saw them hunting strange energy beings that lived in the void between stars. Then he saw danger, a massive storm of radiation and stellar wind. The creatures tried to flee, but the child was pulled away, dragged into a gravity well. The child fell toward a planet, 7. The mother tried to follow, but the storm was too powerful. By the time she fought her way through, days had passed. She searched desperately, following the faint traces of her child's biosignature. The trail led her to human space, to this sector, to the mining colonies. And then she had encountered human ships, weapons powered, blocking her path. "She thought we had captured her child," whispered, watching the same images on her screen. "She thought we were a threat. And when that idiot fired on her," said grimly, "she thought we had declared war." The creature broadcast more images, saw what the creature wanted, to retrieve her child and leave. That was all. She had no interest in human territory or human affairs. She just wanted her baby back. Activated his radio. "Commander, I am going back to 7. I am going to get the child and bring her out where her mother can see her. That should end this." "Absolutely not," said. "You will remain where you are. I will send a team to retrieve the alien child." "With respect, Commander, that child knows me. She trusts me. If a bunch of armed soldiers show up, she will hide or run. Let me go, please." Was silent for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but you will have an escort. Lieutenant Minu, take your ship and accompany the Star Runner to 7. If anything goes wrong, get him out of there." "Yes, Commander," a young pilot's voice responded. Set course for 7. Behind him, Minu's sleek fighter ship fell into formation. The massive alien creature watched them go, its patterns cycling slowly through shades of blue and green. The flight to 7 took 20 minutes, 20 very long minutes during which tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. What if the child had wandered away? What if she had gotten sick from the food? What if she had died? His ship landed in the same spot as before. He grabbed a fresh container of soup he had prepared during the flight and headed toward the mining station. "I am coming with you," Minu said over the radio. "Stay with the ships," replied. "If she sees a stranger, especially one in a military uniform, she might panic." Minu did not argue. Inside the mining station, made his way to the cargo bay. His heart pounded. The beam from his flashlight cut through the darkness. "Hello," he called softly in Korean. "Are you still here? It's me, the soup man." For a terrible moment, there was nothing. Then he saw a flicker of blue light in the corner, the same corner where he had found her before. The alien child emerged from behind the crates. She looked better than before. Her patterns were brighter, her movements less weak. When she saw, her patterns flashed in quick pulses, and she made a sound, a kind of chirping trill that might have been excitement. She ran to him, knelt down, and the child stopped just in front of him. She reached out one thin hand and touched his arm, her patterns glowing warmly. "Hey there," said gently. "I brought more soup, but first I have a surprise for you. Your mother is here. She came to find you." The child tilted her head, not understanding his words. But when pointed toward the exit, toward the sky, her patterns blazed bright. She understood that gesture. Offered his hand. The child took it. Together, they walked out of the mining station into the red dust of 7. Above them, blocking out half the sky, the massive form of the mother creature descended through the atmosphere. The alien mother descended from the sky like a living storm. Her massive body moved with grace despite its size, patterns blazing across her hide in waves of blue and violet light. The wind from her movement kicked up clouds of red dust that swirled around and the child. The little one's patterns exploded with light, brighter than had ever seen them. She released his hand and ran forward, making those chirping trills that grew louder and more excited with each step. Step back to give them space. Lieutenant Minu stood beside his fighter ship, hand on his weapon but not drawing it. He watched the reunion with wide eyes. The mother creature settled onto the ground, her massive form dwarfing the mining station. Part of her body lowered, creating a ramp of sorts. The child scrambled up without hesitation, her small form disappearing into what must have been a fold or opening in her mother's hide. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the mother's patterns began to pulse in rapid sequences, cycling through every color had seen and many he had not. It was overwhelming, like watching fireworks and a light show and a sunset all at once. The colors seemed to express pure emotion, relief, joy, love, concern. Felt tears in his eyes and did not know why. He was watching something private, something sacred, a mother reunited with her lost child. Back on the Soul's Pride, Lieutenant was recording everything. Her equipment captured the pattern sequences, the color changes, the rhythm and flow of the lights. Her computer was learning, building a database, starting to recognize patterns within patterns. "This is incredible," she whispered. "The complexity, the depth of information being shared. This is not just communication. This is art. This is poetry." Commander stood beside her, watching the same display. "Can you understand any of it?" "Bits and pieces," said. "Emotions are clearer than specific concepts, but I am starting to recognize certain sequences. This one here, it appears frequently. I think it represents the child. And this one, it might mean safe or protected." She worked frantically, her fingers flying across the console. With each passing minute, her translation program improved. The computer was learning to match colors and patterns to meanings. On 7, the mother creature's patterns began to change. The joyful bursts of color settled into something more deliberate, more controlled. She was trying to communicate. Radio crackled. "Star Runner, this is the Soul's Pride. The creature is broadcasting a complex signal. We are working on translation. Stand by." Stood in the dust and waited. The child appeared again, climbing down from her mother's body. She ran to and grabbed his hand, tugging him toward the massive creature. I don't think that is a good idea," said, even though she could not understand. The child tugged harder, her patterns flashing insistently. "Star Runner, I think the creature wants you to approach," his voice came through the radio. "The patterns she is showing indicate invitation, not threat, but the decision is yours." Looked up at the enormous being before him. He could be wrong about everything. This could be his last moment alive, but the child was pulling his hand with trust in her eyes. He walked forward. As he got closer, he could see details he had missed from a distance. The creature's hide was not just armored scales. It was covered in what looked like tiny fibers or cilia that moved gently, like grass in a breeze. The patterns were not just on the surface but seemed to glow from within, as if her entire body was filled with light. The child led him to a place where the creature's body touched the ground. The mother's patterns pulsed slowly, a gentle rhythm of blue and green. Reached out carefully and placed his hand on her hide. It was warm, and beneath his palm he felt something like a heartbeat, though much slower than a human's. The mother's patterns flashed, and suddenly his mind was flooded with images. Not through his radio this time, directly into his head. He saw the vast emptiness of space from the perspective of something that called the void home. He saw nebulas that were hunting grounds and neutron stars that were landmarks. He saw the child learning to swim through gravity wells and feed on stellar radiation. He saw the terror of the storm and the desperate search afterward. And then he saw himself through the mother's eyes, a small being who found a dying child and chose to help instead of harm, a creature that gave food and warmth when it had no reason to do so. The images faded, stumbled back, his head spinning. The child caught his arm to steady him. On the soul's pride, alarms were going off. "Commander, the creature just transmitted something directly to his position," a sensor officer reported. "Some kind of focused signal we have never seen before." "Is he hurt?" demanded. I do not know. Life signs are stable but elevated. Heart rate is high." "Grab the radio. Star Runner, respond. Are you injured?" Shaky voice came back. "I am okay. She showed me things. Her memories, I think. Commander, her species, they live in deep space. They travel between stars. The child was learning to hunt when the storm separated them." "How do you know this?" asked. "She put the knowledge directly into my head," said. "I know it sounds crazy, but I saw it, felt it. Her species can share thoughts and memories through those patterns." Leaned forward excitedly. "That explains the complexity. It is not just language, it is direct mental communication. The patterns are a visual representation of thoughts and feelings." "If that is true," said slowly, "then we can communicate with her. Can we send a message back?" "I can try," said, "but it will be crude compared to what they can do. We do not have the ability to transmit thoughts, but I can use the pattern sequences I have learned." She programmed a message using the colors and rhythms she had identified. The soul's pride's external lights began to flash in careful sequence. Blue-green for peace. A specific pattern thought meant question or inquiry. Then a simple concept: "What do you want?" The mother creature's patterns responded. The sequence was slow, as if she understood she was communicating with someone less skilled at this form of speech. Translation program worked to interpret it. Text began appearing on her screen. "She wants safe passage," read aloud. "She wants to leave with her child and not be hunted or attacked. She is asking if we will allow this." "Tell her yes," said immediately. "Tell her we mean no harm. Tell her we are sorry we attacked." Sent the message. More patterns, more responses. "She is asking about," said, surprise in her voice. "She wants to know his name, his species, why he helped." On 7, heard the question through his radio. He spoke directly to the massive creature, even though he knew she could not understand Korean without translation. "My name is, I am human. I helped your child because she was hungry and scared. Where I come from, you do not let children suffer if you can prevent it. It does not matter what they look like or where they are from." Translated his words into pattern sequences as best she could. The mother creature's response was a burst of color that's computer struggled to interpret. "The translation is rough," said, "but I think she is expressing gratitude, deep gratitude. There are concepts here I do not have words for, something about debt and honor and bonds that last across time." The mother's patterns shifted again. This time, a thin tendril of light extended from her body toward. It was made of the same bioluminescent material as her patterns, but shaped and directed with purpose. "Be careful," Minu's voice warned. But stood still. The tendril of light touched his hand, wrapping around it gently. It did not burn. Instead, it felt warm and tingly. The light sank into his skin, and when the tendril, a pattern remained on his palm, a glowing mark in blues and greens that pulsed softly with his heartbeat. She marked him, breathed, some kind of bioluminescent tattoo, the pattern. It is the same sequence she used when expressing gratitude and bond. I think she has claimed him as family, or under her protection, or both. The mother creature began to rise. Her massive body lifted from the ground, dust swirling beneath her. The child appeared one last time, waving a small hand before disappearing back into her mother's protective bulk. The two creatures ascended into the sky, their combined patterns creating a beautiful display of light against the dark space above. They were leaving, heading back to the void between stars that was their true home. But before they vanished completely, the mother sent one final message to the soul's pride. Watched the patterns flash across her screen and read the translation with wonder. She says humans are kind bearers. She says any of her species who encounters the mark she gave will know that humans showed mercy to the helpless. She says we are friends to her kind now. Commander stared at the screen. Then she started laughing, though there was no humor in it. We just made first contact with an advanced alien species, by accident, because one supply runner could not stand to see a child go hungry. On 7 looked at the glowing mark on his palm. It pulsed with gentle light, warm and alive. Above him, the mother and child disappeared into the stars and felt a strange sense of loss. But also hope they would be okay now, together. 3 weeks had passed since the encounter at 7, and life had become very different. He sat in a conference room on Earth's orbital station, surrounded by scientists, military officials, and diplomats. They all wanted to hear his story again. They all wanted to see the mark on his hand. They all had questions he could not answer. "Tell us again about the mental communication," Dr. Park said for what felt like the 100th time. She was a neuroscientist, fascinated by the way the mother creature had shared memories directly with. "It was not like talking," explained, trying to find the right words. "It was like experiencing her memories as if they were my own. I could feel what she felt, see what she saw. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was more complete than any conversation I have ever had." Lieutenant, who had been assigned to work with as an official translator, nodded. "They, as we are calling them now, communicate on a level we are only beginning to understand. Their language is not just words. It is emotion, memory, and meaning all combined." "And they live in deep space?" another scientist asked. "Truly live there, not in ships but swimming through the void itself?" "Yes," confirmed. "They feed on stellar radiation and energy fields. They migrate through the galaxy following currents we cannot detect. Space is not empty for them. It is alive with food and landmarks and meaning." Commander entered the room and everyone fell silent. She had been promoted after the incident, made head of the new First Contact Division. She looked tired but determined. "We have had another encounter," she announced. "A trading ship near the outer rim detected when it approached, the creature did not flee or attack. Instead, it transmitted a pattern sequence that our computer recognized. It was asking about the mark. About." All eyes turned to. He looked down at his palm where the bioluminescent pattern still glowed softly. It had not faded at all in 3 weeks. If anything, it seemed to pulse a bit brighter when he thought about the mother and child. "What did the trading ship do?" asked. "They showed the creature an image of you and the mark," said. "This response was immediate. It transmitted data. Lots of data. Star maps, locations of dangerous zones in space, warnings about hostile species we did not even know existed. Then it left peacefully." The room erupted in excited chatter. This was huge. They were sharing information, helping humanity. "There is more," continued. "We have detected at least 7 other in nearby sectors. They are not approaching human space, but they are close, watching, waiting to see what we do." "They are protecting us," said quietly. The mother told her kind that humans are friends. Now they are acting as guards, warning us of dangers and keeping threats away. An older diplomat minister spoke up. This is an unprecedented opportunity. We need to establish formal relations, create treaties, exchange ambassadors. How? Someone asked. We cannot live in space like they do, and they cannot visit our planets without risking damage from gravity and atmosphere. Everyone looked at again. He shifted uncomfortably. Why are you all staring at me? Because you are the one they marked, said. You are the only human who has had direct mental communication with a. You are, whether you like it or not, humanity's ambassador to their species. Wanted to laugh. He was a supply runner, a nobody who delivered food and parts to remote stations. He was not qualified to be an ambassador. But looking at his glowing palm, he knew he did not have a choice. The mother had chosen him, had marked him, had trusted him with her greatest treasure, her child. 2 weeks later, stood in the observation deck of a specially modified research vessel. The ship was designed to operate in deep space, far from any planets or stations. It was equipped with the most advanced communication equipment humanity could build, all based on its research into pattern language. Herself stood beside, looking nervous but excited. Are you ready? No, admitted, but let us do this anyway. The ship had been broadcasting an invitation for days, a pattern sequence that meant meeting and friendship and the mark bearer. Now, finally, there was a response. Emerged from behind a distant moon. It was not as large as the mother had been, but still enormous. Its patterns were different too, more angular and sharp. This was a different individual. It is working, breathed. It is approaching. They came closer, and through the ship's sensors, they could see its patterns shifting through sequences. Computer worked to translate. It is asking if you are, she said. It wants to see the mark. Pressed his palm against the observation window. The mark glowed brighter, as if responding to the presence of one of its kind. This patterns flashed in what had learned was approval or acknowledgement. Then it began transmitting data. Images and concepts flooded the ship's computer. It is introducing itself, said, excitement in her voice. It is telling us about its territory, its hunting grounds, its knowledge of this region of space. It is offering to guide our ships safely through areas we thought were too dangerous to explore. Over the following hour, more arrived. 5 in total, each one different in size and pattern. Each one approached, saw the mark, and shared information. Watched them swim through space with such grace and power. These were creatures that had evolved to survive in the harshest environment imaginable. They had no technology in the way humans understood it, but they did not need it. They were living ships, living sensors, living weapons if necessary. And because he had fed soup to a starving child, they were now humanity's friends. One of the smaller than the others approached the ship closely. Its patterns were familiar. His breath caught. Is that? The child swam past the window, her patterns bright and healthy. She had grown in just a few weeks. She was still small compared to the adults, but no longer the emaciated, frightened creature had found in that cargo bay. Behind her, massive and protective, came her mother. Pressed both hands against the window. The mother came close enough that her enormous eye was level with the observation deck. She looked at, and he felt that strange mental connection again, though fainter this time. He felt her gratitude, her continued protection, her promise that as long as the mark glowed on his hand, her species would remember what humanity had done. The child spun in a playful loop, her patterns flashing in what could only interpret as joy. She was happy, safe, home. That was all that mattered. 6 months later, still did his supply runs. But now he was not alone. He had become a bridge between two species, carrying messages and information. Whenever he entered certain regions of space, would appear to escort him, their massive forms swimming alongside his tiny ship like guardian whales. More humans had received marks now. Scientists, diplomats, even a few children who had shown particular kindness during supervised encounters. Each mark was unique, but all carried the same meaning: friend, protected, kind bearer. Humanity had learned so much. They had shown them safe routes through dangerous space, had warned them of hostile species that lurked in dark nebulas, had shared knowledge of cosmic phenomena that human scientists had only theorized about. In return, humans had started leaving supply caches in certain locations, not for the adult, who needed nothing humans could provide, but for their young, who occasionally got lost or separated during training. The caches contained energy supplements, navigation beacons, and yes, sometimes soup, because even alien children got hungry. On Earth's grandmother had watched all the news coverage with pride. When he came to visit her, she looked at the glowing mark on his hand and smiled. "I always told you," she said in Korean, her voice warm. "Feed the hungry, help the lost. It does not matter if they are from down the street or from across the galaxy. Kindness is kindness." Hugged her. "You were right, grandmother, as always." "Of course I was right," she said with mock indignation. "Now, are you going to teach those space whales how to make proper kimchi, or do I have to do everything myself?" Laughed. Some things never changed. That night, standing on his ship's observation deck, watched the stars. Somewhere out there, they swam through the void. The mother and her child, hunting and playing and living their lives, protected by the dark between stars. And humans, once alone in the galaxy, now had friends in the deep, all because one man could not walk away from a hungry child. The mark on his palm pulsed with warm light and smiled. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.